day I was searching for some new videos, and I got stuck on Alex Jones' channel, Infowars.com. So we had this video about Kremlin Insider, war might begin even before US elections. Well, it's about the guy who obviously, it's about a guy who thinks he is a Kremlin insider, and he says war might begin even before US elections. Okay, and today we have like 18th of October, guys, and the US elections, as far as I know, are on the 8th of November. So we have like 20 days before war. This is maybe even less, because he says might even begin before US elections. So it might be any day. So why you guys believe in this stuff? Why is Alex Jones, he is a conspiracy theorist, well-known conspiracy theorist, why is he believing, and he's a journalist, is telling all this bullshit? Look at
Russia. We have the capability of doing it. It echoes what the CIA told NBC News, saying that the president wants to be able to cyber attack Russia. And we know that cyber attacks can escalate very quickly into war, even nuclear war, and the Russians are aware of that. And this Kremlin insider is echoing that fear, that sentiment. Well, we've also seen reports that Russians, the Kremlin has told Russian citizens to come back from abroad, pull your kids out of schools that are abroad, and come home. Now, pending nuclear war, perhaps, what we do know.
So, this is the insider. Who is this guy? It's Markov. His name is Sergei Markov. He is a former congressman. If we compare this to USA, we have deputies and you have congressmen. So he was a deputy, and deputy, or whatever, how do you call it? Deputy is like, you know, your right hand or something like that in sheriff and the deputy. So like his fellow, you know. But deputy in Russian is a congressman. So this is a congressman, an ex-congressman who was like elected like 10 years ago maybe. So right now he is no congressman. He's some bullshit institute or something, center of some research or whatever, political institution. Hell with him. So he's nobody. He was nobody, and he is nobody. So why is Alex Jones trying to wave us and say that we might have begin war even before US elections? This is not a link. This is not a source of information. He is nobody. Why is Alex Jones doing this? This is just hilarious, because I know this Alex Jones show is a pretty good show. He covers up all these conspiracy theories and, you know, doing all this great job. I often agree with him. But why is this nuclear war or whatever, World War III, is in every his show, for like a week or so? Are you really guys afraid of war? Or maybe this is just a Trump propaganda? Do we have any signs of something that Hillary and Obama can do to start a war? Is this possible? Let's see. If we relate to our history, we know that something did happen, and in 18th or 17th or 19th century we are not sure, because it happened several times actually, because it didn't happen like globally. It was happen occasionally in different regions in this period of 2 or 3 centuries. So it wasn't like a global, just like that situation, simultaneously starting everywhere. It's not. But what could have done this is definitely some type of nuclear war, because we see these nuclear war craters everywhere in Russia. And they are not exactly like this, because this is a ground strike. If we have an air nuclear strike, like an air nuclear strike happens just like this one, but it not hits the ground. So it's like blowing up in the air above the target. Okay? It's easier to understand it if we look at the crater. So if we look at the crater, we probably will see the crater with inside circle. So let's see. Air nuclear explosion crater. I don't know if they show it to you in Google. So, okay, I'll try and explain it with my own words. So let's see. This is not it. This looks like something similar, but not exactly. Okay, if we like imagine that this is a nuclear air strike crater, it looks pretty much like this, and it has inside little hill or mountain which is made by suck power of this nuclear strike. So it like sucks all this soil into the center and moves it up here. So what we see after the nuclear strike, air nuclear strike, is we see a round thing with some little hill on it. It's not very deep, depending on the power of the strike. So I hope you understand what I'm saying. So we have this type of craters everywhere, and most of them are now filled with water and looking like little lakes, maybe 25 to 30 feet deep. Not very deep, right? Maybe they have like a little, flat surfaces, but we don't see it because the air or the water covers all these areas and we don't see them. So what I'm trying to say is, after this war, all this ground and soil was moved in the air with these explosions, and we had like atmosphere full of dust. Okay, and this dust was concentrated into the clouds, which rained and created the mud floods. So the mud floods obviously were occurring in the 17th to 19th century, as I said. So we have them like in places like Siberia, everywhere. We have them in Italy, We have them for sure. We have them in some parts of Europe and Russia, and we have them in China. Of course, we have them in Egypt because we had evidence of the pyramids and the Sphinx that was covered with sand and mud before it was seen by Napoleon and other guys who came. And I even had this video here on my channel about how pyramids really looked when they tried to dig it out. So let's see. Where is it? Oh, Giza pyramid after the flood in the 19th century. So it's an actual footage of Sphinx. So this is how they dig it out. Look at this deep. How deep was the sand? It almost covered to the head of Sphinx. This is all dug out. So we had it like everywhere. I showed the pictures of different other objects on my other videos about flood. So what I'm trying to say is, after those strikes, we have these mud floods everywhere, and they like cover all these areas. Also, we have I don't know how to call it, but something related to mining and grudger work, and this is we must separate this from the mud floods, because where we have the mining evidence, it's other situations. Where we had flood evidence is another situation. So after this thing, we have the migration processes, which result in massive depopulation of some areas, and people moving from one continent to another continent, and just moving around and searching for some, peace. And so this is how we can like control the situation, if we are actually the actors in this process. So like what I'm trying to say, okay, if we have like, look at this world right now, we can see all this, probably all of this is the work of mining. Okay, and I'm not talking about this right now. This looks like this is a huge mine. So they like took all this mud and sand and all this stuff from this quarry. This is a huge quarry, and just flood it over here, and then it like flood it over here, and actually we see it's stabilized over here with this desert, huge desert. Here we have another type of flood, which is also covered on my another videos. This flood is frozen, and here too. So obviously it's also a result of some simultaneous processes. here and here, because it was frozen right away. We can find mammoth bones, we can find ancient animals which are completely safe, and you can even eat them. The hunters feed their dogs with those animals, and I've covered this situation in my video about mammoth bones, so check it out. So, and we have some areas which are just depopulated with the nuclear strikes. So, and after those strikes, obviously we had migration, and stuff like that. So, what I'm trying to say is people moving around from here to here, which is more safe, and we can see that Europe is more safe than Russia, because Russia was all bombed out. Europe is not that destroyed as Russia was. Italy is pretty destroyed with the floods, so and Turkey is, because everything we can like dig in, and we find ancient cities, we find ancient artifacts. Greece is something like that, and Crimea and all this Black Sea is all in an ancient artifact. So we see a whole bunch of ancient civilizations concentrated here. Here we have more like more safe stuff, so it's not like in the ground, it's just got a little bit floods, so maybe first floors are flooded to the ground and that's it, and the rest is just safe and sound. So that's why they call it as a medieval times, because they show these artifacts and tell us this is just medieval, guys. This is ancient, antique, and this is medieval. But it's obviously it's supposed to be one period, because all those buildings and all those technologies are pretty much the same. Just as we see in Italy, we see it in St. Petersburg, which is way over here. And you know what? I found this pretty interesting when I found out that St. Petersburg is on the same line with Egypt pyramids. Let's say Giza. Okay, you see this line? And if we zoom in, what do we see? We see Kiev, which was one of the ancient capitals of Russian region. It was the great Etruria capital, and what do we have here? Which is a spiritual center of Russian Christian Church, and that's why the evil forces try to always capture Kiev, as well as St. Petersburg and Moscow, because as we can see, I'm not quite put this right now. We need Giza pyramids. Pyramids. And now we zoom in again, so you will see it's exactly turned to Kiev. It's like it's getting closer. And if we find Kievo-Pechorskaya Lavra, which is that church, it's supposed to be somewhere here. Okay. And also what I can say, this was one country. Maybe we had some nations, of course, we could have had them, but the Bible says that everyone speaks the same language. Okay? And if everyone speaks the same language, obviously they knew this one language. Everybody knew it. So it was international language, and everyone knew it. As I've told in my video about Ra and Russia, I've told you that some explanation of Russian language is in English, and some explanation of English words is in Russian. Well, so those languages are definitely comparable, and they develop each other, because some of those Russian guys moved to England, and you know how they call themselves? They call themselves Brits. You know what's Brits in Russian? Shaved. So the guys were shaved. That's why they call them Brits. And if we check on Brits, I bet they were shaved. Okay, let's see in Google search. How did the Brits look? Not the British people, the British tribe. Celtic Britons. Okay, maybe. Do we have any? Oh, King Arthur. King Arthur, who is even in the movie, was called a Sarmatian warrior who was, you know, recruited by the Romans, and guess where was Sarmatia? Sarmatia is over here. Okay, this is Sarmatia, which is now called Ukraine. Okay, so okay, why? Okay, we don't see any Britons, British, how they looked like. Even Wikipedia doesn't tell you this way, but I'll show you, so you won't be surprised when you see it. Okay, it's always like this. When you want to find something, you can't even find it. So maybe like this. Okay, that's why they call them Brits, because they were shaved. Okay, and they had this fancy hair, which is coming from this part of the head, which is called, I'm not sure how it's called right now. So it's like It's a sacral part of the head which connects to the god. That's why they left hair only here, because hair is in ancient Russian called Cosmo. You know what's Cosmo? Cosmos. So it's connection to cosmos. Okay, cosmos is eternal energy, which is how we know cosmos. But the cosmos are really that hair that we use. So everyone has cosmos, and each hair connects you to your ancestors and to energy field that we have between us and our ancestors. Even the kids, you can check it. If you have little kids, you can check it. Over here we have the thing called, let's see, how do you call it in English? Spring, okay? Not the exactly spring, but the spring of water, like from the ground, like real, okay? Real. So, and of course, spring is a time when all this rain, not all this snow and stuff like that, and it's all melting down to some little rivers and little water streams and stuff like that. So it's all the same. It's your cosmos, your spring, or it's all connected to your ancestors and all this energy field that we have, and that's why we have nesting dolls who obviously represent our bodies. Like we have mental body, physical body, and stuff like that. So it's an astral body, and that's why we have so many different heights. Because we can grow our bodies. We can actually look this big and this big and this big. If we do it the right way, if we do it like the ancestors told us. That's why we have this in Russian tradition. And you forgot it because you guys were Brits, and you were Walish people, and Wales is the place where they celebrated this guy whose name is Veles. He was. That's why the druids look like these guys, because they were the forest guys, and they talked to animals, and they actually were natural, and they were the kids of this guy. Okay, every ancient god was an actual person who at one time became an ancestor for his offsprings. Okay, and they actually celebrated his birthdays, his magic days and stuff like that. And before the Christianity, of course. And after Christians came, everything that our people had was forgotten. Everything came to be bad. And that's what we have when we forget who our ancestors are. We must win the information war. The evidence is hidden in all these books that we have around us. Most of them are so close to us we can't even imagine. We must read all that is written in the books. Those books that we got from our parents, our grandparents, and grandparents, we must find evidence in those books. That's our first action. The second action is search the internet, find great articles, find research, collect the information, ask questions, develop the knowledge, find the photo proofs like this. This is actual footage from the 19th century where we can see the people dug out all these buildings and we can see how they actually look like, and we can compare them, those pictures, to the photos that we have right now. We must prevent this thing, because if we migrate, we mix up the cultures, and that's what they want us. They want us to forget our ancestors at any reason. Even if it's your grandfather, they don't want this connection. They want only 3-generation connection. That's the only way they can rule us. It's the only way they can establish this new world order, which they actually do. And they threaten us with this fakery, this false flag, all this stuff. This is advertisement. They advertise in the nuclear war. The Alex Jones, the Hillary Clinton, everyone is. Actually, your army commanders in USA and NATO, they provoke it. They provoke Putin, who is not a stupid guy, for God's sake. He didn't push any buttons. If any of you Bushes or Clintons were on Putin's place, they were already pushed the button, because they're so crazy. They can talk shit and do nothing. They're crazy. What they're talking to you, what they're saying is completely insane. In comparison to this, Putin is a good guy, but he's actually not. But he's better than all your stupid guys that you have in politics. Only maybe Trump and maybe a couple more guys who actually is better than nothing. Like we say in Russia, if we don't have a black caviar, let it be just fish, or something like that. So let it be Trump, let it be someone more realistic than Hillary and Obama and all those stupid State Department guys who are saying these stupid things like this. What is this? What is he trying to say? Look at this.
Candidate who snorted his way through the first 2 debates is accusing the other candidate of taking drugs. Candidate who snorted his way through the first 2 debates is accusing the other candidate of taking drugs.
How can the White House spokesman can say something like that?
On Saturday, Donald Trump suggested that presidential candidates should have to take a drug test. White House response?
Well, so you're telling me that the candidate who snorted his way through the first 2 debates is accusing the other candidate of taking drugs? It's a curious development in the campaign.
They're actually all taking drugs, I think. Because what are they saying is more stupid than I ever seen or heard. Like they ask our Minister of Internal Affairs, like State Department in the United States, Mr. Lavrov, ask him, "What do you say about pussies and Trump?" And he says, um, "There's too much pussies around the election. This is smart. This is smart. This is funny." Did anyone say anything like this? No. No. No Obama, no Clinton says anything as smart as this. You guys can only threat. You guys can only like provoke, you know. And what are they pushing us? They pushing us to this. They pushing us to this. They're already doing this. They provoking one line of migration to another wave of migration and stuff like that. They moving people around. They like playing chess. And after the war, we have the technological reset. And after this reset, we have what we have. We have this stupid engine of internal, like in those stupid trains, old trains. We have still the same technology. If you just look at this with these eyes, we didn't move a step from this train. This is what we have right now. You gotta realize that this is just the same as your car outside. And we have this Elon Musk guy who says we got Tesla, we got this electric engine. Okay, that's good. That's okay. But when did you promote this? When did you promote this? At the time what we one step from this nuclear war? Thanks a lot. You're supposed to do it like in 80s or maybe 70s or maybe even in the beginning of 21st century. And what we did in the beginning of 20th century, we dug out, we got the excavation work everywhere. That's what we did. Check it out. Everywhere we had this. It's eternal excavation of everything. All those channels, all those channels that we have, even Suez Channel. It was all excavated. It was not built. It was excavated. We have a lot of evidence of this. All these channels that we have right now were done by the previous civilizations. We only excavated and cleaned it up. Okay? They were already done. We just had to rebuild them. So what I'm trying to say is we don't need this. We don't need this. We don't need this. We don't need this. We don't actually need this. So stop provoking. Tell your people to cool down. We are not concerned about any war with the United States. Nobody is. I'm showing you the top lines here. There's nothing about any type of war or something with the United States. We have a peaceful news every day. We have it like calm and cool, people going to work, people moving around. I'm doing my research on history topic. That's more important than provoking a nuclear war. I think we should do some more research on that, because this is obviously more important than this. And what are they trying to do? Is scare us to hell so we can like argue, you know, sit here and, you know, go to shop and buy ourselves like 20 cans of this, 20 cans of that, you know, water, supplies, clothes, weapons, and stuff like that. We stock it up, we stock our, you know, houses with all this useless stuff, and nothing happens. It's all provocation. It's nothing but the pre-election debate instruments, dirty tricks. And nobody in Russia wants to be buried in the mud again. So tell you guys to cool down, and don't worry, nobody's gonna attack. Nobody, because we have this air defense system that is just perfect, you know. So no matter what you shoot at us, nothing comes, and nothing scares us. Just as you do the same type of air defense system. And if we shoot at you a nuclear strike, probably nothing happened to all the guys who should be scared are Europe, Japan, South Korea, China, India, Africa, Saudi Arabia, Israel, and all these countries. They don't have such air defense system as we do, as Russia and the United States. So I think we shouldn't be scared of nuclear war. The guys who in the countries who I've mentioned definitely should be scared, because that's why this is a strike on you, first of all, because you are the allies of the United States or Russia. Maybe some of you, most of you are the allies of NATO, and so you should be scared, because NATO uses you as a target, as a potential target for Russian strike, and they don't want to defend you because they don't have as much air defense as they have on the United States. You gotta realize that. And obviously what they provoking right now in Syria, what they provoking in the Middle East, is sure the Israel topic too, because Israel came out of nowhere in 40s and 50s and was the red button for every conflict, because Israel has a permanent conflict with Syria on Golan Heights, and if Syria is defeated by ISIS or peaceful opposition or whatever, all those terrorists that we mix in one crazy mob, those terrorists supposed to cut Syria in pieces, and one of these pieces should have to be added to Israel. That's the reason the Israel is in neutral right now and just waits for the situation to finish. And if they do not attack Syria, Syria would be grateful and just leave them Golan Heights. If Syria is destroyed by ISIS, ISIS will give them Golan Heights too. So they don't have to do anything. In both ways, they win the Golan Heights. And I'm not saying this is a conspiracy theory. It's definitely a mix of interests, and it's definitely the situation like this because a couple of thousands are fighting and millions are moving. Millions are moving to Europe. Some couple of thousands are moving to the United States. And next year, if Hillary Clinton wins, you're gonna have a couple hundreds of thousands of those migrants from Mid-East. which is not very good for you. So you gotta realize what are you doing if you're talking to Hillary as your future candidate, future president. I'm not sure this is good for you guys, because it's not good for Europe, it's not good for you. We better stop this thing, and we better communicate, strike on ISIS as we can, and finish this job, because ISIS will be out in a minute, and the United States want not to support the peaceful opposition that is fighting with Assad and Syrian regime, because all this peaceful opposition is the right and left hand of this ISIS. Everyone admits it already, even your candidate Trump and other newsmakers and journalists. Everybody knows it, and even WikiLeaks proves it. When Hillary says that we must press on Saudi Arabia and Qatar, who are supporting ISIS, and while saying this, she takes the money from them on her campaign. So how corrupt is this? How corrupt is Putin in comparison to Clinton? This is just unbelievable. Okay, so I hope you understand what I'm wanted to say. We need to stop this thing. We need to win the information war, because this is the most important thing that we're doing right now. So ask me questions, subscribe on my channel, share this video. Sorry for bad English maybe sometimes, but I'm pretty sure I got better for a month or a little bit more. So see you next time. Bye.